The morning in Paradise began quietly, with leaves rustling in the wind and trees creaking. The hum of electricity from power lines filled the air. Students chattering aboard a school bus broke the early morning stillness. A bus driver maintained order, reminding the children to stay seated. The bus came to a stop, and students thanked the driver before disembarking. Reports from a morning news broadcast indicated that Paradise was experiencing another dry, windy day. The region had gone 210 days without rain, and wind gusts reached up to 80 miles per hour. A red flag wildfire warning remained in effect for Butte County. The forecast called for even more dry, windy weather. At the bus depot, Ruby addressed the staff about maintenance issues. Tree branches had fallen onto Row Road due to strong winds, and power lines were down. The mechanic was scheduled to service bus 963, and Kevin was instructed to observe the checks. Kevin arrived home to help his dog, Elvis, who was gravely ill. He held the dog in his arms at the veterinarian's office. A somber moment passed as Kevin realized Elvis's time had come. The wind outside continued to whistle, growing in intensity. Metal structures creaked and rattled as the storm grew. A call came in reporting a grass fire near the Pulga Bridge on Highway 70. The fire department received the report and immediately dispatched engines 2161 and 2176. Firefighters prepared their equipment and rushed to their vehicles. The alarm blared as they headed toward the reported location. The fire appeared to be spreading rapidly, blown by fierce canyon winds. Students began arriving at school as emergency sirens wailed in the distance. The fire started near the Pulga Bridge, located 8 miles east of Paradise. Initial assessments suggested the fire covered approximately 200 to 300 acres. The wind was pushing it down the canyon at an alarming rate. Information about threatened communities emerged. Pulga, an old gold rush post, was located about a mile west but was uninhabited. Concow had approximately 800 residents, mostly retirees and homesteaders. Paradise, with a population of about 27,000, was 8 miles away on the other side of the canyon. Officials believed Paradise should be fine and faced no immediate threat. Kevin's personal situation grew complicated. His mother called to report that his son, Sean, was ill with a fever and throwing up. Kevin worked on getting the bus to the depot for maintenance. He didn't have time to leave work immediately. Later, his ex-wife Linda called with pressing concerns about Sean's condition. The fire situation rapidly deteriorated. A second fire was reported near Rim Road, north of Concow. What appeared to be a single fire was actually 2 distinct fires. These indicators suggested the fire was caused by downed power lines in extreme conditions. Kevin rushed to a drugstore to purchase Tylenol for his sick son. He spoke with the pharmacist about his fever and vomiting. The pharmacist recommended over-the-counter Tylenol as the best option. Fire behavior became increasingly extreme. The fire began spreading rapidly toward Concow. Firefighters reported that the Butte Creek Canyon Fire and the West Branch Fire had merged in Paradise. The flames were burning aligned with the wind, consuming the southwest portion of Paradise. The only area not yet burned was the northeast section, directly in the fire's path. Critical actions unfolded at Ponderosa Elementary. Teachers began organizing students for evacuation. School officials received emergency orders to evacuate the east zones of Paradise immediately. The principal announced evacuation procedures. Parents started arriving to pick up their children. School transportation presented challenges. Bus 963, driven by Kevin, was assigned to transport students to Paradise Elementary. Mary, a teacher, assisted in organizing the children. She ensured they had their backpacks and maintained calm as they boarded the bus. The children crept and moved in an orderly manner, holding hands in pairs as instructed. The evacuation route posed significant challenges. Kevin and Mary needed to navigate through increasingly congested traffic. The planned route along Pence Road toward Pearson appeared problematic. There were at least 15 miles of traffic trying to get to Chico. The roads were extremely tight and congested. Kevin maneuvered the bus through heavy traffic, taking aggressive action to secure passage. He deviated from the planned route, turning onto Clark Road, which ran parallel to Pence. This maneuver caught Mary off guard, but it proved effective. The bus moved faster as a result. The fire continued its rapid advance toward Paradise. A mandatory evacuation order was issued for Zones 3, 8, and 14 in East Paradise. Approximately 4,000 residents were affected by the evacuation warning. Communication systems began failing, making it challenging to coordinate emergency responses. Emergency officials struggled to manage the overwhelming scale of the disaster. Upon arrival at Paradise Elementary, Kevin and Mary discovered the school was empty. No parents were present to collect the children. They realized that emergency communications had failed and that the parents hadn't received the evacuation orders correctly. The collection point had shifted, but information hadn't reached all parents. Kevin and Mary faced a critical decision. They needed to get the children to safety immediately. Kevin decided to take the children to the main evacuation center in Chico. They would drop off the students and then return to find their own families. Mary struggled with this decision, knowing she had a son of her own to find. Kevin assured her they would reunite the children with their parents. The fire began to dramatically affect driving conditions. Smoke grew thicker as they progressed. One student became extremely frightened and hid under her seat. Mary comforted the terrified child, speaking in soothing tones. She assured Ava that everything would be okay. Kevin navigated the bus through increasingly hazardous conditions, smoke and flames. Traffic became nearly impossible to navigate. Fire engines blocked the road as emergency crews worked to manage the situation. Kevin moved the bus aggressively to clear a path through the congestion. He coordinated with fire personnel to allow the bus to pass. Mary called out obstacles and hazards. They managed to push through, with students applauding when they finally broke free. Kevin and Mary discussed their personal situations as they drove. Kevin revealed that his father had died a few months ago. He had come back to Paradise hoping for a fresh start. Mary shared that she had been married for 19 years and had one child, a 15-year-old named Jake. She mentioned her husband was out of town. The route became increasingly hazardous. Power lines were coming down across roads due to extreme fire and wind. Electrical explosions lit up the sky ahead of them. Kevin maneuvered around downed cables and burning structures. Mary warned him of obstacles on both sides of the road. They had to navigate through a landscape increasingly consumed by flames. Confusion reigned at the evacuation point they initially planned. The school appeared to be on fire. Emergency personnel directed the bus away from the burning school toward alternative shelters. Kevin and Mary continued driving, seeking any haven for the children in their care. The fire spread faster than authorities could organize evacuations. The bus became trapped in blocked roads as the fire advanced. All routes in every direction appeared dangerous. Neal Road was on fire. Row Road was blocked with burning debris. Foster Road was impassable. Flames essentially surrounded them. Kevin assessed the situation from a ridge and confirmed they were in danger. Kevin made a crucial decision. They would stay on the bus rather than attempt to flee on foot. The bus offered protection, and evacuating the children into open flames would be fatal. He explained to Mary that they were alive right now and had time to devise a solution. Staying put was their best chance. The air inside the bus became increasingly toxic as smoke infiltrated the vehicle. Kevin turned off the air conditioning, though this would make the interior hotter. The children grew frightened and uncomfortable. Mary distributed strips of cloth soaked in water as makeshift filters. She instructed the children to breathe slowly and stay calm. Kevin found Meadow Creek Park nearby, remembering a back exit from his childhood. One student, Shannon, began experiencing severe respiratory distress. She wheezed heavily and struggled to breathe. Mary tried to calm her, instructing her to slow her breathing. The situation became critical. Shannon needed water urgently to prevent heat stroke. Kevin decided to step off the bus for a moment to find water. Mary remained with the children, ready to drive if flames approached. Kevin returned with water, and Shannon drank gratefully. The immediate crisis passed, though conditions remained dire. The smoke was now so thick that visibility was nearly zero. The sound of the fire roared constantly outside. Windows were extremely hot to the touch. The children remained huddled together, terrified but trying to be brave. The fire continued its relentless advance. Firefighters on the radio reported that the fire was spreading across both commercial and residential areas throughout Paradise. Significant structural losses were occurring rapidly. Air support remained grounded. The situation had escalated beyond standard emergency response capabilities. All available resources were overwhelmed. Inside the bus, the temperature continued rising. Windows became almost unbearably hot. Kevin cut up his shirt into small pieces to create better filters for the children. These makeshift filters, moistened with water, helped soothe their throats. He moved the children toward the back of the bus, away from the air vents where smoke infiltrated. Kevin and Mary discussed their fears as they waited. They talked about their children and their desire to be reunited with them. Kevin revealed his complicated history with his own father, a relationship marked by anger and estrangement that had lasted 28 years. He had driven all night when his mother called to say his father was dying, only to arrive too late. Now, as a father himself, he faced his own failures. Mary shared her own reflections about Paradise. She had only left the town twice in her lifetime, once to visit Ohio and once for a weekend in San Francisco. She had believed staying in Paradise meant safety, but the fire shattered that illusion. She realized hiding away was no way to live. If they survived, she would change her approach to life. The water supply began failing in the surrounding area. Hydrants had no pressure. Firefighters reported they were losing the battle against the fire. The decision was made to cease firefighting operations and focus solely on saving lives. Chief Martinez issued the order. All resources should redirect toward evacuation and survival. Chief Martinez held a press conference addressing the disaster. A fire was reported at approximately 6:30 a.m. near the Pulga Bridge. It spread rapidly, overwhelming firefighting efforts. By 8:30 a.m., the fire had entered Paradise. Martinez was forced to order the cessation of firefighting and focus on life protection. Thousands remained trapped or attempting to flee. Martinez added that fires were getting bigger every year. Inside the bus, children asked if they would be okay. Kevin assured them the sun would come back out and the smoke would pass. One child asked if it was nighttime. Kevin explained it was just smoke between them and the sunshine. Another child wanted his father. Kevin listened compassionately and assured him his father was doing everything possible to reach him. As time passed with no rescue, an ominous question emerged. How much time did they have? Mary suggested perhaps another hour, but the filters wouldn't last much longer. Should they let the children sleep? Mary voiced the unspeakable thought that sleep would be better than suffering if the fire reached them. Kevin rejected this thinking firmly. They had to maintain hope. Kevin told stories to keep the children engaged. He asked them about storytime activities at school. They chanted crisscross applesauce together, trying to maintain normalcy in an abnormal situation. Kevin encouraged them to sit cross-legged in the aisle, away from hot walls and floors. The children tried to stay brave, though fear was evident. Hours passed in the suffocating heat and smoke. Children coughed and wheezed. The air quality deteriorated further. Mary and Kevin took turns checking on each child. They closely monitored their condition, looking for signs of heat exhaustion. Every sound outside the roar of flames, explosions, crackling filled them with dread. But the fire did not reach them. A fire suddenly broke out at the back of the bus. Kevin and Mary sprang into action immediately. Mary rushed to the rear while Kevin grabbed fire suppression materials. They fought the fire desperately. The spray worked. They extinguished the flames. Their quick action saved the children's lives. As the hours continued, the immediate fire threat seemed to pass. The flames didn't consume the bus. The children were alive. Kevin reflected on second chances and regrets. He spoke with Mary about the missed opportunities he had with his son. He had disappointed Sean countless times, and now he might get a second chance. Mary assured him it wasn't too late. The sky eventually began to lighten. The smoke started to clear. The immediate danger appeared to have passed. Rescue efforts finally reached the area. First responders found the bus with all the children inside. Parents began arriving to reunite with their children. Emotional scenes unfolded as children were handed to their relieved parents. One child, Toby, was reunited with his father. Kevin mentioned sending pictures of elephants, a light moment amid emotional reunions. Parents thanked Kevin and Mary profusely for saving their children. Applause erupted as first responders acknowledged their heroic efforts. Kevin's supervisor approached and told him he had done good work. Amid the celebrations, Kevin remained concerned about his son, Sean. He didn't see him at the evacuation center. His ex-wife hadn't brought Sean yet. Kevin walked through the crowd seeking his son. He was informed that Sean was with his mother, safer with her than he might have been. At the evacuation center, families searched for missing loved ones. Aid workers maintained lists and directed people toward disaster relief tents. An older woman searched for her family, the McKay family. The aid worker was unable to locate them. The human cost of the disaster continued to mount as families desperately sought information. Kevin was ultimately reunited with his mother at the evacuation center. She had made it out safely thanks to a neighbor, Carl. Kevin asked immediately about Sean. His mother revealed that Sean was with his other mother and was happy there. She noted this was for the best. Sean was safe with the person he needed to be with. The immediate crisis had passed, but the aftermath was beginning. The evacuation center remained filled with survivors seeking shelter and information. The extent of the damage to Paradise was becoming clear. Thousands had been evacuated. Many had lost their homes. The fire continued burning in surrounding areas, but the immediate threat to human lives in Paradise had been contained. The narrative captures the harrowing experience of Kevin, Mary, and the children trapped in a school bus during the Paradise Fire. Their courage, quick thinking, and determination to protect the children led to survival against impossible odds. The story reflects themes of redemption, responsibility, and human compassion in the face of catastrophe.